What is going on YouTube? It's Andreas here from Symmetry 4-Wheel Drive and welcome back to the channel. Also, welcome to my 2009 BMW E90 330D in a 6-speed manual. Now, this is actually the newest BMW I have ever owned. I've always been a massive fan of the old E36, E46, as well as the E34 and E39. And I've never really delved into the newer models very much in terms of ownership myself. So the E90 chassis code BMW was produced from late 2005 to around 2012, 2013 for the coupe and convertible models. So getting into the specs of this car, as well as this engine in particular, this 2009 330D comes with the N57 family of diesel engines. Now, that is a all aluminium dual overhead cam timing chain 3-liter straight 6 turbo diesel engine. Now, the specs of the engine in terms of power and torque are 180 kilowatts, which roughly equates to about 240 horsepower, and 520 newton meters of torque. Now, this torque comes in at about 1,500 RPM with peak power just over 4,000 RPM, and that torque is available for quite a wide range of revs in terms of a diesel, and this engine feels very un-diesel-like in the way that it sounds and the way that it revs as well. So in terms of a lot of diesels which you wouldn't particularly class as sporty or refined, this particular engine, this N57 in this 330D, really makes a good job of keeping that sporty character of the car and being a very smooth and refined engine with very minimal vibration and NVH from the engine bay. Let's put our foot down and have a little feel what this car has to offer. So we are going uphill now, second gear. Gonna put my foot down. And you are up to speed extremely quickly, and I can't describe the feeling you get in your body from that G-force, from all of that diesel torque. So not a direct comparison by any means, but I remember driving a Ferrari F430 a few years ago, and that feeling of like acceleration and torque was a real experience. And one thing that I find funny is I feel like the torque that this car provides almost gives you a similar sense of adrenaline, and the way the car pushes you into your seat and that feeling of G-force at the pit of your stomach. It's like you can't compare a 3 Series diesel BMW to a Ferrari 430, but there are similarities in the acceleration and the way that car made me feel when putting your foot down. So take it for what you will, but the torque in this car is absolutely immense, and the feeling it gives you in your stomach when you put your foot down is really thrilling, exciting, addictive, and I think with a bit of a tune and modification on the car, it will only become more so. So second gear, road is clear and straight ahead of us. Yeah, that is serious. It's definitely no joke. I mean, even 335i BMWs that I've driven give you a nice surge and pin you in your seat feeling, but this diesel is just another notch and step on top of that. It gives you such a fantastic feeling and experience of what torque is. And I personally love cars with torque. Yes, there's something to be said about revving a car to 8,000 RPM and above, and it's a fantastic thing, but the feeling of torque is maybe even more exciting in my opinion. Another little bit of road here. And that little bit of lag in the throttle and the turbo that then turns into the surge of torque is really quite something. And especially on the highway in higher gears, it offers for excellent overtaking, and you really can use this wide range of torque that this engine offers. It's a fantastic little torque monster. Yes, I'm sure that the 335Ds are even quicker and even more powerful, but you almost think to yourself, what more do you need than what this car is providing in terms of that surge of acceleration? It's an absolutely fantastic power unit that really pulls like a steam train. You're definitely not going to feel lacking in the performance department of this car. I mean, it really is a true sports diesel. They are such a robust design and so detuned from the factory. I mean, the same basic engine as this is found in other variants of BMW and can be found to make 300 kilowatts of power with, you know, close to 800 Newton meters of torque, and it's the basic engine that's in this car, just minus a couple turbos and fueling. So they really are a great platform in terms of their reliability and their tunability. Getting into the driving dynamics and the ride and the general sort of drive of this vehicle, the first thing you notice with this E90 generation is it's very sure-footed and has a great chassis, a very stiff chassis that is still compliant enough to be comfortable for everyday driving, but it is also very direct, and you can also feel its sporting pedigree and nature that is sort of part of the DNA of BMW in this era and the 3 Series in general. So the steering is quite quick and direct, and it gives you a good level of feedback and response, and the suspension works really nicely. It's a McPherson strut setup in the front with a multi-link setup in the rear, and it provides very good road holding as well as comfort. So overall, I'm quite impressed with the suspension and road holding dynamics of the car. It is a nice sweet spot of the era of BMW where it built on the fantastic platform of the E36 and the E46, and in some ways you could say is the pinnacle of the engineering from the E36 and E46. And focusing now on the sedans of the E90 generation, I think the pre-LCI or pre-facelift versions didn't age quite as well and quite as handsomely as what these LCI facelifted variants have. Now, I think that the changes that were made to the LCI, being the headlights at the front kidney grills, the bumper, the bonnet having those extra creases and lines in it, the rear bumper, the rear tail lights, all of those little elements together made such a better looking car, in my personal opinion, than the pre-LCI. And as time has gone on, I think the shape, proportions and design of this E90 have aged really well. When they came out under Chris Bangle's supervision, they were received with mixed enthusiasm. A lot of people hated them, a lot of people liked them. It was sort of a 50-50 split. And as time has gone on, even the E60 generation of 5 Series and this E90, they've aged so fantastically and have such a nice balance between old traditional BMW styling as well as the new modern sort of look. It was a great era for BMW in terms of design, especially in later years as time has gone on now. So they really have aged beautifully in my opinion, and in M-Sport guys like this vehicle is, as well as this Lamar blue color, it is an absolutely stunning looking car, and they have just aged well, and I think will continue to do so as the newer models just become more garish in their styling and design. So on the interior of this E90 BMW, it's maybe not the same level of build quality in my opinion than the E39 and E46 generation that came before it, being 5 and 3 Series. For some reason there's a little bit more plastic in these cars, the E90s, and some of the materials aren't quite as nice to touch or to even look at in that sense. But other than that, material choice and build quality, it's still a very solid car. There aren't many noticeable creaks or rattles on the inside. I think the dash is laid out really nicely, and a lot of people like to opt for the cleaner dash without the iDrive infotainment system, but I personally love this dual hump dash with your gauge cluster in front of you and your infotainment next to you in the dash here. I think it's ergonomically very well laid out and also looks quite appealing as well. Now the switch gear in here is sometimes a bit plasticky depending what you're pushing and touching, but overall quite a good quality, and everything's quite ergonomically and simply laid out. Everything is within reach and you can touch it very easily, get to what you need very easily. It's very Germanic in that sense, where it's very functional and almost function over form in its simplicity. And the iDrive controller and system is very easy to use. The one thing I'll note is with this manual transmission, every now and again you do hit the iDrive controller, and you know, it doesn't happen often, but it can be a little bit of an annoyance. But overall, I like the general layout and design of the interior on this E90. It's simple and timeless in a sense, and the materials are good enough, and I think they've aged quite well and strike a good balance between technology and analog. Personally, I think it's a nice interior. Maybe the Audi of the same generation, the B8 A4, was a bit better. Mercedes, I don't think was quite as good as this BMW in their C-Class, so you could say BMW's middle of the pack in that sense, and I personally like this design quite a bit. So I think having a manual paired to this 330D N57 engine is quite a special thing, especially here locally in South Africa. The manuals are very few and far between and difficult to come by. So I'm happy that I found one in manual, and I was specifically looking for one in manual. And I will say again, comparing to the E39, this is a step up in terms of gear engagement. It's a bit closer in terms of its throws, it's a bit tighter feeling, but it's still typical BMW in the sense that it's a bit plasticky, a bit rubbery in feel. It's not like a super direct engaging gear lever feel. It does the job absolutely well enough, but is not going to leave you feeling like it's the last word in manual gear engagement, but it does the job perfectly fine. And again, I'm super happy to have this manual paired to such a fantastic diesel engine up front. And one of my favorite things about this car and engine is that you have such a nice amount of performance while still returning really impressive fuel consumption. So you can almost drive this car however you want, however you like, and still get good fuel economy, which for me is such a fantastic thing that I haven't experienced in many other cars, where you can have such a thrill of acceleration and handling, cornering, and even top speed. I mean, this car is limited to 250 kilometers an hour, and you can have all of that and still get well below 10 liters per 100, which for a car that performs like this, you don't get many others that can offer you that sort of performance and return this sort of economy. So that's a really special thing about this car. I can get in it, enjoy the hell out of it, and really drive it how I want, and look down at your fuel economy and do it all over again and not worry, because you know you're not going to need to go to the petrol station anytime soon. I mean, for instance, this is a 60-liter tank in the car, and I've got 420 kilometers out of half of a tank, and I'm averaging around 6.5-7 liters per 100, and I'm getting a huge smile on my face when I put my foot down and when I find a nice twisty piece of road. So that duality and dual character of economy and performance is really spectacular in this 330D. Final thoughts on the car. I think it's an absolute fantastic all-rounder that combines fuel economy, performance, acceleration, and torque with comfort, reliability, and refinement, and a very agile, tossable chassis that also is comfortable and executive to cruise in. And the car looks fantastic, comes from a great age of BMW manufacturing where they made fantastic cars, and is in a way the Swan Song of the E series generation of 3 series. And yes, it's not a 335i or an M3, it's a diesel 3 series, but as far as a diesel 3 series goes, this is quite something special. Thank you for watching, guys. I think I'm gonna end off the episode there. I had a fantastic time sharing this car with you, and hope you're enjoying this new road car content, and we will definitely see you again soon in the next one. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps out the channel and makes me feel good about making this content. So we'll see you again soon. Cheers. That's a very nice Land Cruiser Troopy next to us. Very cool car. Anyway, balance of so many things: aesthetic, styling, performance, comfort, luxury, all of those nice words, you know, all of those good things.